At 5 a.m. on September 6, 2025, 10 Ukrainian drones were seconds away from rewriting history. Their target was Europe's largest nuclear power plant, a place so untouchable, even thinking about striking it was considered madness. But on that morning, someone decided to test that boundary, because this was about sending a message in the most dangerous way possible. Those 10 KHS-7 drones were small enough to fit in a backpack and cheap enough to buy online. Each weighed barely 1.5 pounds. They were moving toward the most dangerous target in Europe, and every one of them carried a purpose far greater than their price. Just $400 apiece. The objective appeared through the lead drone's camera, the training and simulation center inside the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. On the operator's screen, a small digital marker blinked. It was the distance to the active reactor core, 984 feet. They targeted the plant's brain, the $50 million simulator, where Russian engineers practiced how to prevent another Chernobyl. Take that out, and you don't cause noise. You take away control and make the enemy blind inside their own fortress. But imagine being in that briefing room, staring at the map. Would you have approved this? Flying within 1,000 feet of a live reactor? Or would you have called it insanity? 9 miles away, in a hidden bunker near Orikhiv, a Ukrainian technician guided the swarm from a worn-out laptop. His signal was a 5.8 gigahertz frequency hopping stream, changing channels 1,000 times each second. To Russian radar, it was invisible, a ghost buried in noise. On his screen, the Zaporizhzhia complex looked like an iron dome. The Kasuka-4 jamming system spread across 186 miles, flooding every frequency. Above it, the S-400 radar rotated constantly, searching for movement and scanning for threats. On paper, this fortress was untouchable. However, the 47th Drone Brigade had been preparing for months. They never intended to fight the fortress. In actuality, they planned to outthink it. The answer was under the water. Now tell us, if you were in that room, would you have trusted a plan that begins beneath a river? At 4:30, the operation began. A civilian fishing boat drifted in the fog, while the Maritska AUV slipped beneath the surface. For the next 30 minutes, it moved like a submerged predator through muddy water, completely unseen. At exactly 4:55, the loud phase started. 2 modified Neptune missiles thundered to life near Zaporizhzhia. Their target was a BM-30 multiple rocket launcher parked nearby. Notably, that launcher is a battlefield shotgun. Its rockets can spray the sky with deadly shrapnel. Eliminate that threat, and the swarm's chance of survival rises sharply. While Russian forces scrambled to find what struck their launcher, a second team moved. A 5-man Ukrainian Special Operations Unit, long embedded inside Enerodar, took action. Their job was pretty technical. They neutralized crude but effective anti-drone nets around the facility. Using a handheld jammer, they opened a narrow, silent corridor through those defenses. Think of them as technicians who quietly rewired a lock so the right key could pass. They created the conditions the drones needed to enter unseen. What do you think? Would you have started with the missile strike or with the ground team first? Which risk would you have accepted to get those 10 drones through? At 5 a.m., the river broke its silence. The Maritska surfaced in a patch of reeds just over 3 miles from the plant. Its waterproof hatch opened slowly, releasing 10 KHS-7 drones into the misty air. Each carried a shaped charge, small but lethal, built for precision, not destruction. 8 of them dropped low, skimming barely above the terrain, hiding in the radar clutter. 2 climbed high, soaring to 500 feet with dummy warheads. Their job was to draw every Russian eye upward. Indeed, it was misdirection at its finest, the feint before the actual strike. The Russians reacted within seconds. The S-400 Triumph radar locked onto the 2 high drones and tracked them cleanly. To the operator, it looked like success. Targets detected and response ready. What he didn't know was that those targets were bait. The S-400 was designed to hunt bombers, not 1-pound machines. Against these small drones, it was like swinging a sledgehammer at dust. At the same time, the Kasuka-4 electronic warfare system flooded the air with jamming noise. Its signal covered 186 miles, a storm of interference that could blind entire skies. But the KHS-7 drones weren't relying on ordinary radio links. Their signals hopped frequencies 1,000 times per second, far too fast to pin down. And above all those, Russian Orlan-10 surveillance drones circled endlessly. Their infrared cameras could spot tanks from miles away, but saw nothing here. To them, the river was calm, lifeless, untouched. They had no idea that an underwater drone had already surfaced beneath their watch. At that moment, the plan was working perfectly. The Russians were busy chasing decoys, while the real threat slipped through unseen. It was a high-tech illusion built from timing and nerve. Inside each drone sat a tiny brain, an NVIDIA Jetson Nano board. That chip ran the frequency hopping code and handled visual navigation. GPS was dead across the zone, so the drones used optical maps instead. Their cameras matched terrain to satellite images stored in memory. They read the landscape like road signs, not radio beacons. The frame used feather-light carbon fiber to slash radar reflection. On radar, a KHS-7 looked smaller than a sparrow. The S-400 was tuned to ignore birds to avoid wasting missiles. 2 multi-million-dollar missiles screamed skyward and locked on the decoys. But the defenders began to see noise and flicker on their screens. A nearby Orlan-10 confirmed contacts from above. Then, a handheld device created a bubble of pure electronic chaos. It mimicked and corrupted the jamming signal, leaving operators half blind. Seconds later, the 2 decoys literally disappeared in fire and smoke. Sergei logged 2 kills and spent millions on targets worth a few $100s. Meanwhile, 7 attackers slipped through the thinning net toward the heart of the plant. If an $8 board and a handheld box can decide this outcome, what would you have trusted? At 5:03, the remaining swarm slipped inside the final defensive ring. Russian commanders faced a nightmare decision. Any firing solution risked striking critical reactor structures. Turret crews and gunship pilots suddenly had to aim around the plant. Their mindfulness created narrow, deadly windows the attackers could exploit. Fire erupted, and a turret downed 1 drone. A gunship scored another. A second turret shredded 2 more in a controlled burst. One by one, the swarm fell to shrapnel and cannon fire. 6 drones died in seconds. 1 drone kept flying through the mess. That single drone flew like a surgeon. Its operator steered with tiny, precise inputs. The target was not a reactor. It was a ventilation intake on the 3rd floor. The opening was no larger than a pizza box, which guaranteed minimal collateral damage. The drone slipped into the ductwork and became a ghost inside the building. Inside, the pilot navigated from memory and a burned-in 3D model of the layout. He counted turns and climbs in his head like a tight checklist. A soft click confirmed the warhead was armed. The camera feed dissolved into blinding white static, and a tiny, perfect detonation followed. Finally, secondary ignition confirmed the target was neutralized. The small warhead did not explode like a traditional bomb. A focused jet of molten metal cut through 10 inches of reinforced concrete. It moved at terrifying speed, vaporizing the primary server racks and severing the building's main power bus. The effect was surgical and absolute. By dawn, the training center lay in ruins. About 80% of the facility was destroyed. Engineers estimated months of work and tens of millions of dollars to rebuild. Official figures put the repair timeline at roughly 18 months and cost north of $60 million. The state media did not explain. Holding the site and running it are not the same thing. Without the simulator, certifying crews for 6 VVER reactors becomes far harder. Operational knowledge takes time to rebuild. For nearly a year and a half, the occupiers have lost a crucial capability. Ukraine did not take the plant, but it seized the plant's operational future. Inside the Ukrainian controller's cramped cabin, every input mattered. He navigated by a 3D blueprint burned into memory after months of rehearsal. Left, right, a short vertical climb. He counted each turn like a checklist. At exactly 5:03:43, the feed showed a bank of humming electronics. He nudged the stick, made one tiny correction, and pushed forward. The FPV image collapsed to white static, and a soft mechanical snap confirmed the warhead. Through the headset came a calm report. Secondary ignition confirmed. Target dark. Outside, guards saw little. A thin puff of black smoke escaped a 3rd floor vent. Lights inside the simulator blinked and then went dead. That silence carried a new, sharp fear for Sergei. The cost of victory was small in price, but huge in consequence. A few $100s bought a single path to strategic damage. The simulator was mostly ruined. Estimates said rebuilding would take about 18 months. Repair costs climbed past $60 million. Those numbers change planning, as well as emotions. Without trained crews, running 6 VVER reactors becomes a far harder task. Certifying operators is slow work. It cannot be rushed without risk. For a year and a half, the occupiers lost a capability they had relied on. This mission rewrote a rule of war. Cheap tools can force expensive consequences. A low-cost drone created leverage that huge systems could not prevent. That is the new arithmetic of modern conflict. Ethics sit heavily in this story. There were no mass casualties or fireballs. Still, every choice was brushed close to catastrophe. One mistake, and the stakes would have been unimaginable. Would you call this strike a brilliant, proportionate act? Leave your verdict in the comments. Also, share this video with anyone who believes brains can beat budgets. Hit subscribe and stay tuned, because somewhere out there, another Russian commander is about to have a very long night.